I want to ask you something before I say anything else. Think about the last time someone you loved tried to tell you something important, something that hurt, something that required you to really sit still and listen. Did you stay in that conversation, or did something inside you quietly leave the room? If you felt something when I asked that question, stay with me, because what I am about to share took me 75 years to understand, and I don't want you to wait that long. Before I begin, if you are new here, this channel is a place for real stories. No performance, no pretending. Just honest conversations about the things that are hardest to say out loud. If that is something you need in your life, take a moment right now and subscribe, because there are more stories coming, and some of them might be exactly what you needed to hear. Now, let me tell you mine. My wife left me 2 years ago, and for 2 years, I told myself I didn't know why. I'm 75 years old. I have lived 3/4 of a century on this earth, built a life, raised a daughter, worked hard every single day, and I did not know why my own wife walked out the door, or at least that's what I told myself. The truth is harder than that, much harder. She told me why, twice. The first time, she sat me down at the kitchen table, the same table where we had eaten thousands of meals together, and she told me everything. I remember her face. I remember her hands folded in front of her. I remember the light coming through the window, but her words, gone, every single one of them, like they were spoken behind a thick wall of glass. I could see her mouth moving. I just couldn't hold anything she was saying. So, I asked her again. Weeks later, I sat across from her a second time and I told myself, this time you will hear her. This time you will not let the words slip through. I tried. I really tried. But the moment she started speaking, something inside me went somewhere else. Far away. Somewhere quiet and safe. She was talking, and I was completely gone. I came back when she stopped, and I had nothing. Not a word. Not a reason. Nothing. I had been doing that my entire life. I just never knew it. My little sister was the one who showed me the mirror. We were sitting together one evening, not long after the separation. She was telling me about something that happened to us when we were young, a painful thing, a thing I had absolutely no memory of. And she stopped, looked at me, and said, very quietly, "You probably don't remember. You're like Mom. You forget the things that hurt. Like Mom." I got stuck on those 2 words, not the part about forgetting, the part about me, because I had spent 75 years believing I simply had a good memory for what mattered, and a poor memory for what didn't. That's not what was happening at all. My mind had been protecting me since I was a very small child. It learned, somewhere between the ages of 3 and 6, that when things became dangerous, the safest thing to do was leave, not with your feet. Just inside. Unplug. Go somewhere far away in your own head and wait quietly until the threat has passed. I did that as a boy. I did that as a young man. I did that as a husband. For decades. And the people who loved me most were left standing in a room, talking to someone who had already left. Here is what I understand now, at 75. The things that happen to a child do not disappear just because you cannot remember them. Your heart remembers. Your body remembers. Every time you go numb in a hard conversation, every time someone reaches for you emotionally and something inside you closes like a door, every time you feel that hollow, exhausted feeling, at the end of a day you can't explain, that is not weakness. That is not a character flaw. That is a body and a mind that learned, very young, how to survive something it should never have had to survive. I carried that for 70 years without knowing I was carrying anything at all. And it cost me my marriage. The woman I built my life with spent decades trying to reach me, and every time she came close to the real me, I disappeared, not because I didn't love her, but because something in me was still 3 years old. still afraid, still hiding. She didn't leave because she stopped loving me. She left because she was exhausted from knocking on a door that never opened. When I finally understood all of this, my first thought was ugly. I thought, it's too late. I'm 75. Whatever happened, happened 60, 70 years ago. The marriage is over. The damage is done. What is the point of any of this now? I sat with that thought for a long time. And then I thought about my daughter, about the time she came to me with something that was hurting her, and I changed the subject without realizing it, about the conversations where she needed me to just sit still with her, in the pain of something hard, and instead I found a reason to leave the room, about the phone calls that ended too quickly, the visits where she left, looking like she hadn't quite found what she came for. I don't want the rest of my life to look like that. I don't want to stand at the end of my years and realize that the people I loved most never quite felt it. Not because I didn't feel it, but because I never learned how to stay in the room. So I made a decision. I found a therapist who works with people who carry old wounds, and I walked into her office at 75 years old. I sat down and I told her, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if a man my age can change something this deep and this old. I don't know if I even deserve to feel better after everything that was lost, but I don't want to keep running. She looked at me for a moment, and she said, then let's begin. That's all she said. Then let's begin. I cried in her office that day, for the first time in longer than I can remember. Not from sadness exactly, but from relief, because someone had finally said, you don't have to keep carrying this alone. I want to tell you something I think about often now. I think about what peace might actually feel like, sitting in my chair in the evening, with no particular reason to be anywhere. Not exhausted, not anxious, just at rest. Having a difficult conversation with my daughter and staying in it all the way through, without the door closing inside me. Waking up in the morning without immediately reaching for something to fill the silence. Someone saying something that stings a little, and not disappearing into shame or anger or that long numb nothing. Just breathing through it. Staying. I don't know yet if I will fully find that place, but for the first time in 75 years, I am walking toward it instead of away. Now I want to speak directly to you, because if you have stayed with me this long, something in this story is touching something in yours, and I don't want you to close this video and go back to pretending everything is fine. So here is what I have learned. The hard way, the long way, over 75 years of getting it wrong. The first thing is this: numbness is not peace. I spent most of my life believing that because I wasn't falling apart, I was doing well. But there is a difference between being calm and being gone. Real peace is not the absence of feeling. Real peace is the ability to feel something hard and stay present with it anyway. If you have been confusing numbness with strength, you are not alone. I did it for 7 decades. The second thing, the people around you are telling you the truth. If your wife, your children, your friends have ever told you that they can't reach you, that you go somewhere when things get hard, that they feel alone even when you are sitting right next to them, believe them, not as an attack, as a gift. They are showing you the door to the room you have never been able to open. The third thing, you cannot heal what you refuse to look at. I know looking is terrifying. I know the mind throws up walls for a reason. I know that what is behind those walls may be things you have spent a lifetime not thinking about, but those things are already with you. They travel with you every day. They sit at your table. They stand in your doorway. The only difference is whether you face them with help or keep pretending they are not there. The fourth thing, and perhaps the most important, you are not too old. You are not too far gone. You are not too broken. You have not waited too long. I walked into a therapist's office at 75 years old, carrying things I had never spoken out loud to anyone. and something began to shift. Not overnight, not without pain, but it began. If I can begin at 75, so can you. My wife left me 2 years ago, and for 2 years, I told myself I didn't know why. But the truth was always there, quiet, waiting. It took losing her to stop running from it. I wish it had cost less. I wish I had understood sooner. I wish I had found the courage to open that door 30 years earlier. But here I am, 75 years old, finally learning how to stay in the room. If something in this story spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below. I read every single one. And if you are not yet subscribed to this channel, please do that now. Because the most important conversations are the ones we keep avoiding. And this channel exists to have them. Take care of yourself. And don't wait as long as I did.